The concept of selection and concentration is one of the most frequently heard, but most difficult values to put into practice in our lives. Modern society demands so much from us. Information overflows, choices expand endlessly, and we are pressured to achieve above-average results in every field. However, the time and energy we possess are strictly limited. The moment we try to do everything well, we lose the ability to demonstrate excellence in any single area. This is the fundamental reason why we must pay attention to selection and concentration. The principle that best explains this logic is the Pareto Principle, often referred to as the 80-20 rule. This concept contains the insight that 80% of all results come from just 20% of all causes. This law was discovered by the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto while observing pea pods in his garden. He realized that 80% of the healthy, ripe peas came from only 20% of the pods. This simple observation eventually became a massive principle that penetrates economics, management, and our daily lives. When we look at the business environment, this law becomes even clearer. In almost any company, 80% of revenue is generated by a core. 20% of top customers, the remaining 80% of customers contribute only 20% of the revenue. If a manager pours equal energy into every single customer, the company's resources will be depleted rapidly. True growth happens when a business concentrates its services on the core. 20% of customers who drive revenue and maximizes their satisfaction. This applies equally to work efficiency. Among the many tasks we handle throughout the day, the core work that actually determines our performance and changes our future is only about 20%. The remaining 80% is likely simple email checks, incidental administrative tasks, or habitual meetings. We must identify this core 20% and place it during the times of day, when our energy is at its peak. This logic of selection and concentration also applies with surprising accuracy to human relationships. Many people want to be remembered as a good person by everyone and consume excessive emotional energy, trying to change the minds of those who dislike them. However, there is an unavoidable statistical law in human relationships, the 10-20-70 rule. No matter how you live or what you do, there will always be about 10% of people who unconditionally dislike and criticize you. They may criticize for the sake of criticizing regardless of your values or actions, or they may show hostility due to jealousy of your success or simple misunderstandings. Conversely, 20% of people will believe in you, support you, and love you, even if you make mistakes. These are the people who understand your essence and stay by your side through difficulties. The remaining 70% are neutral people whose reactions change. Depending on the situation, they may cheer and approach you when you are doing well, but quietly distance themselves when you face hardship. The secret to a successful life and maintaining a peaceful mind begins with acknowledging this distribution of relationships. Most people are hurt by the words of the 10%, who dislike them and waste energy trying to win them over, ultimately making the mistake of neglecting the 20% who truly love them. However, changing the minds of the 10% who dislike you is nearly impossible. The energy spent on them is ultimately a waste. We must boldly give up on that 10%. Instead, we should concentrate on the 20% who support us, forming deep bonds with them, and use that energy to expand our positive influence over the 70%. This is selection and concentration in human relationships. There are many other examples in daily life. Look at your closet. Among the many clothes hanging there, we actually wear only about 20% of them frequently. The remaining 80% are items we wear once or twice a year, or that have been abandoned because they are out of style. Yet, we complain that we have nothing to wear and fill our closets again. With 80% of useless clothes, the same goes for smartphone apps. Among the dozens of apps installed, the ones we use every day can be counted on one hand. Even when studying, the core content that determines the essence of an exam is only about 20% of the key concepts. Students who study by piercing through this core achieve high results with less time. On the other hand, students who read every page with equal effort get tired easily and see poor results. Selection and concentration is not simply the act of choosing something, but the courage to decide what to discard. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple, he reduced the product lineup from dozens of items to just 4. Despite opposition, he focused on cutting away everything that was not essential. As a result, Apple escaped the brink of bankruptcy and became the world's top company. He emphasized that focus does not mean saying yes to the thing you are focusing on, but saying no to the hundreds of other good ideas. This is why the art of refusal is necessary in our lives. Among the many attractive offers and opportunities, we must boldly cut out those that do not align with our fundamental goals. Cases of successful investors also support this. Warren Buffett, the world-renowned billionaire, advises writing down 25 things you want to do, keeping only the 5 most important ones and not even looking at the remaining 20. This is because the remaining 20 are not just simple chores, but the most dangerous temptations that distract you from the 5 things you consider most important. When we narrow the scope of our choices and clarify the target of our concentration, we can finally gain explosive momentum. The fundamental reason we struggle with selection and concentration is anxiety. The fear that we might fall behind if we miss something or suffer a loss. If we don't grab a certain opportunity makes us distracted. However, just as a hunter chasing every rabbit catches none, dispersed energy creates no change. It is the same principle as light when focused through a magnifying glass. It becomes powerful energy that can burn paper. But scattered light merely brightens the world without causing any substantial physical change. Now is the time to look back at your life. What are the 80% of trivial tasks that are draining your energy? Are you clinging to the 10% of people who criticize you and consume your emotions? Identify the core, 20% of work that will determine your future, and the 20% of people who truly cheer for you. Then pour all your resources into them. It is okay for the rest to be a little lacking. Give up the greed to be perfect in every field, and take the shortcut to true success by producing overwhelming results in one essential area. This attitude fundamentally changes the quality of life. When selection and concentration become a daily habit, we no longer make excuses about being busy. Unnecessary appointments decrease, and we can allocate more weight to reading, exercising for growth, or spending time with loved ones. Spaces become pleasant through minimalism, and mental leisure arises. Above all, you feel a powerful sense of efficacy, that you are taking control of your life. It is not a life of being swept away by the environment and touching this and that, but a life of being the protagonist, who walks steadily in the direction you have set. Ultimately, life is the sum of the things we have chosen. But more accurately, the value of life is determined by what we have given up, just as a great painter highlights a theme by utilizing empty space. Rather than painting countless colors on a canvas, we must erase unnecessary colors from the canvas of our lives. What is the one thing you should focus on most at this moment? Try practicing, letting go of everything else except that one thing. It may feel awkward and anxious at first, but as time passes, your life will become clearer and more powerful. Selection and concentration do not end with a single resolution. Every morning when you wake up, you need a process of reconfirming your own core. 20% amidst countless information and temptations. Constantly ask yourself who among the people you meet today you will give your heart to, and which of the tasks you will handle today is closest to your goal. And when the voices of the 10% who dislike you are heard, just calmly pass them by as a natural law of nature. Your energy is precious. Do not waste that precious energy on worthless places. I hope you will now break away from the complex daily routine and have the insight to pierce through to the essence. I support you in becoming an unrivaled existence in that core area you have chosen. When you remove 80% of the noise and focus on 20% of the melody, your life will become a beautiful symphony. Proving that your choice was right will ultimately be the result of the concentration you have created. Do not waver and go your way. Please do not forget that the 20% of people who support you are always with you.